Hello, everyone. Happy International Women's Day. My name is Niloufar Omidi. I am a researcher in human rights law, working at Lucy Michael Research Training Consultancy. Today, we are celebrating Women's Day while we are thinking of women and girls in Afghanistan, Syria, Yemen, and recently in Ukraine who are living in fear and war. As a woman who passed her childhood in war, I know how it feels to be trapped in a war and think if the next missile would hit our home or not. Really difficult time. Today, I'm going to talk with you about discriminations based on bias and how to empower ourselves against discriminatory approaches. We started with talking about women in war, and we all know how they are deprived of their fundamental rights. But today, our discussion is about women who live in apparently peaceful countries that are still struggling for their fundamental rights due to the gender bias, which is still deeply rooted in societies. There is no doubt that there has been a great achievement in realization of inherent rights for women in the past century through different developments in law and policy. The most significant measure was the UN Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, adopted by General Assembly in 1979. It defines discrimination against women and lists what states need to do to end discrimination. Ireland signed and ratified this convention in 1985. So it committed itself to achieving equality between men and women in Ireland, including in the areas of political and public life, health, education, and employment. Unfortunately, in many other countries, this convention is not implemented at all or not fully implemented yet. We acknowledge the role of the implementation of CEDAW in countries such as Ireland, and we can observe how gender equality has been a point of focus in recent decades. There has been considerable progress in implementing gender equality. However, there is still a long way ahead to remove deep-rooted barriers on women's way to succeed, especially when it comes to women from non-dominant and underprivileged groups, such as racialized and disabled people or people that they are from aged groups. These groups experience inequality not only because of their gender, but also because of different aspects of their social and political identities that combine to expose them to different modes of discrimination. It is necessary to acknowledge that everyone has their own unique experiences of discrimination and oppression. And we must consider everything and anything that can marginalize people. So it is crucial to look at discrimination through intersectionality, which extends beyond the gender element and explores the way in which multiple forms of discrimination based on gender, race, sexuality, age, disability, and class overlap and interact with one another to shape how different individuals and groups experience discrimination. The ongoing discrimination against women from non-dominant groups is the grim reality of our society. And it originates from different kinds of bias against them. While equality is a legal right recognized at international, regional, and national levels, it cannot be successfully enforced under the shadow of conscious or unconscious bias within the system. This fact does not necessarily originate from deficits in the law. For instance, under the provision of the Equal Status Act, discriminatory and racist treatment is unlawful. At the regional level, I can say the European Convention for the Protection of Human Rights and Fundamental Freedoms, Article 14 contains a prohibition of discrimination on any grounds such as sex, race, color, language, religion, political, or other opinion, national or social origin, association with a national minority, property, birth, or other status. In other words, discriminatory policies and behaviors can be due to the existence of different levels of bias among those who execute the law. As a result, non-dominant groups experience prejudice, stereotypes, and discrimination on a daily basis. Stereotyping, prejudice, and discrimination are three categories of bias. Stereotyping is cognitive bias, the tendency to ascribe people a set of characteristics based on the group they belong to. For example, Muslims are like this, or travelers do this. And the next category is prejudice, that it is an emotional bias, disliking someone because of their group identity. And discrimination is the gravest form of bias that denies equal rights based on prejudice and stereotypes. Whether it is conscious or unconscious, its devastating impact on the realization of fundamental rights cannot be ignored. Now the question is how we can overcome discrimination that we are experiencing in our daily life. Equality is an inherent right and cannot wait for those who benefit from their discriminatory approaches to make a decision if they want to implement equality or not. In a world that it is full of double standards, we as right holders should stand up ourselves for the full implementation of equality. However, equality will never be tangible if people remain incapable of defending themselves against discrimination. Individuals who suffer inequality due to being a member of a community should be equipped with defense mechanisms against those who are responsible for discrimination, marginalization, or exclusion. As a migrant woman from a Muslim community, I would like to share some mechanisms with you to empower ourselves against discriminatory approaches. First of all, we must be aware of our fundamental rights, including the right to non-discrimination, regardless of our gender, race, or any kind of affiliation or background. Educate yourself and your girls about their fundamental rights. Find out who is responsible to implement your rights and is the duty bearer. Note that equality is not only a moral right, it is a legal right that can be claimed. It is emphasized in legal documents. So the tool is there. We must be equipped with that. The second step is to move from victim zone and become an activist. Be your own advocate. Improve your self-esteem and self-confidence to be more assertive. Believe that every single of us has unique potentials and abilities. Learn self-advocacy skills. Search for training sessions and workshops to learn new skills to support yourself. Report discriminations. Gather information as much as possible. Gather documents as much as possible and report it. Find out who is the best place to be reported. And the third step is to speak out when you see any kind of discrimination in society. Do not be silent and actively function as an agent of change, and do advocacy for those who are still in victim zone. Challenge the institutional, structural, and systemic discriminations that have historical, social, and cultural roots. Remind those who have responsibilities to respect and ensure equal treatment. Do not be neutral when you hear stereotypes. If it is necessary, challenge the norm. Speak out and remember that discrimination is society's problem, which has perpetuated an illegal sort of treatment. So society has the responsibility to fix this problem. So there's nothing wrong with you. You are standing for a legal right that it is supported by valid legal documents. Full realization of the right to non-discrimination should not be regarded as a gift to be granted to women, but a legal obligation for duty bearers. We should constantly be involved with the process to eliminate discrimination. It might be difficult, but it is possible. I hope these steps that were based on my own experiences would help you to overcome the current problem towards achieving an inclusive and equal and diverse society. And again, happy International Women's Day. Thank you very much.